Welcome to CATtheMinion Energy Work. My name is Teresa, but you can call me Cat. This is Astrology Tarot Periodical, and we're reading for Pisces and Aries combined. There's 6 readings in this set focused on the full moon in Virgo on the 24th of February. This reading is going to come out a little bit after that, but we're still going to be feeling those full moon effects. Additionally, that's just a timestamp for when the video came out. This video is for when you come across it. The reading isn't necessarily a specific reading. The way I read the spread is a template, and different situations could fit into that. So the spread that I'm doing is my yin-yang relationship check-in, and I designed it for a romantic relationship, but the way that I'm reading it right now, it's not exclusive to that. It can come up in some of the readings. It's more inclined to that than others. The way that this reading works is these cards are for Pisces, and then one of those cards carries over to Aries, and then Aries has these cards, and one of them carries over into Pisces. So normally what I do is I'll have one layer, and these cards will get flipped over when I start the reading. I take the bottom of the deck, so I'd be flipping the deck over like this to get those cards. This reading has 2 layers because the full moon is going to be illuminating something that's been repressed or hidden or in some way secret, feared, or forgotten about. And the first layer is going to be what's readily available to understand in the material world. To make this easier, I'm not going to leave the whole decks here just so you can kind of see what's going on in the fuzzy background. I've got it focused to about here. So I'm going to leave the bottom deck cards, this is just the box, face down for a minute till we get to the secret sauce layer. And I'll take this one out. Ooh, we got the 2 of Cups behind there. So it might be, this one might be a romantic relationship. And even if it's not, for some people it might end up being that way. I'm going to take the bottom 3 cards because these are phrase. This is my phrase deck, and it might close out the reading a little better. So we'll just take this one card here. We've got the wheel behind there, which came out in the Capricorn Scorpio reading. So we'll leave that there. This is rotated because sometimes it happens with cards where it's wiggling. It's not quite in the challenge position. Something's happening. This is just crooked. And these hexagonal cards sometimes go in weird directions as well. And we'll get all into that in just a moment. I'm going to start with the middle here. I'm going to read Aries first. We have the 8 of Fire, the 8 of Wands inverted. Events moving at a fast pace. Delays are over. Many things happening at once. And this is inverted. So it's like I either expect there to be a bunch of stuff happening and it's not, or it's sort of like I'm waiting for the other foot to drop. It's like, why can't everything be paced normally? It's like hurry up and wait kind of energy. Or it's this idea of continuing delays. Somebody's intercepting my messages and not telling me. I'm not getting any information. I'm not hearing back from my application for financial aid or scripts or what have you. 8 is Mercury in Sagittarius. It gives me Mercury retrograde energy. I don't know if Mercury's going to be retrograde again soon. I think it was retrograde in December, which means it's not going to be retrograde again until probably we're in the sign of Aries, which might be why this is coming up. I know it's coming, and I'm trying to get everything done before then, but I'm already experiencing technical difficulties because of solar flares or some bullshit. So Pisces has the 10 of Pentacles. Everything seems hunky-dory over here. Everything's copacetic. Makes me think of the Big Dipper in the sky right now, Ursa Major. And it's giving me a little bit of like Arthurian legend. You know, like Arthur is old here with his dogs and Guinevere's off banging Galahad in the corner there. It's been foretold in the stars. It's also giving me birth chart. Why am I born under the sign of the bear? We don't have that in our zodiac. It's like I'm dealing with a different kind of star system. But on the other hand, this is a very, I was going to say, I wanted to say robust, but it's actually a happy card. Like, I'm really content. 10 of Pentacles. Mercury in Virgo. Okay. So we have Mercury Sagittarius inverted, but Mercury Virgo upright. Interesting. And the difference between them, technically 2, but it's actually 12, which would go back into the Hanged Man Knight energy that's come up a couple of times in the other readings. This is like, I'm too old for this shit. I'm just going to, like, enjoy where I'm at in life now instead of trying to run around competing with people who are with, like, the younger people. But it's not, that's like, it's more like I've learned that lesson already. I don't need to repeat it. Let those who haven't gone through it do that lesson. I'm not like, I already got my driver's license. Why should I be out there practicing with an instructor? Kind of situation. You know, I passed the bar. I'm already a lawyer. I don't need to intern as a paralegal again. You kids can do that. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. And this is, like, I haven't even heard if I got my law school application received yet over here in Aries. It kind of makes sense to see this because Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, the sort of young spring energy, and Pisces is the last one of the zodiac, and we see the beginning of the journey and the end of the journey here. All right, so let's take a look at Pisces surface cards. 10 of air inverted, so another 10. If I take 10 minus 10, that gives me 0. That's the Fool. I just heard John Lennon starting over. 10 of swords, the sun in Gemini. Inverted tells me moon energy, right? Sun inverted tells me moon, which is, we have the full moon right now. The end of a difficult situation. Embrace the change and expect things to get better. Recovering from an addiction. Oh. It's like you kids and your in your ecstasy and your fentanyl and whatever. I'm good in the corner with my shrooms, my Mario Kart. It's like, I ain't got time for the pain. I haven't got time for the pain. I want to do this one first. The crookedy one. The Emperor, Archangel Michael. Organization and logic, structure and discipline, and leadership. Okay. This is coming in slightly askew. And to me, it's giving me that, like, old guy energy again. It's, oh, and that was Virgo. In that case, Virgo isn't the maiden, it's a low vibration of the hermit. Like, I'm good over here in my corner. I'm sticking to the rivers and the lakes that I'm used to. I don't need to go whitewater rafting with you. You kids go on ahead. This is just, like, I don't need to be an authority figure. I just heard I'm grandfathered in terms of business, but it's like, if people want to seek me out in my solitude and ask me shit, like, I'll tell you what's up, but otherwise, I'm just chilling. Like, I'm not going to try and actively tell people what to do. I'm like, oh, you're testing your karma. I could explain to you why that's a mistake, but then you wouldn't learn. You ain't gonna learn nothing if you don't do it yourself. I'm like, I'll just let you guys have the experience points, because I know how this story plays out. I've read that book. I've seen that movie, too. Yeah, Elton John. Okay. What's this one? Knight of Air inverted. Okay. Knights in white satin, never reaching the end. Letters I've written, never meaning to send. But I love you. Intelligent, decisive, idealistic, tireless. Events that occur with great speed. Take time to carefully review your options and creative solutions. Yeah, this is like responding to this over here, right? Because if I take this from the 10, that's negative 12, that's this inverted knight. But it's also denoting that there's something slow, there's a delay, nothing's happening, there's no communication. In this case, Pisces is like sitting in their corner, you know, whittling their wood, talking to the cat, and you know, none of the young people have noticed that they might need some advice. And this isn't like necessarily like an age thing, it's an experience thing. So when I say old person or the hermit, I'm talking about someone who's had experience in whatever situation is playing on out here in the foyer. Right, so it could be somebody who's 10 years younger than you, but you've had the weight of the experience. You know, they've never gone on the T in Boston by themselves. They have never been on the T by themselves, and they're scared of all the maps and everything, and they have to learn it for themselves, because even if you explain to them what it's like, they're not going to know unless they're down there in the concrete tunnels looking at the maps and picking the right bus and cramming themselves in there and making sure they get off and don't get run over. And like I said, they could be 10 years younger than you, they could be 15 years older than you, but you still hold that experience. And in that case, you would be the old guy in this story. You could be 82 and someone else could be 85 and they don't know what you're doing, what you've been through. But the point is, even if they're like, oh, this person over there, they sort of have it in the back of their mind that, you know, you may have experienced life, but they think like oh, you're not hip, you're not in touch, you don't know what's going on. Like, we're gonna experience life, and they don't have any way of knowing what you've been through unless they ask you, or you perhaps put it in a book or on the tubes of you, so that they can access it in some way. You know, it's like, oh, I told you so, but I didn't because you didn't ask me. You're gonna look at Aries meat space view here. I guess I'm starting with this one. The Knight of Swords inverted. So the same card is over here. We're doubling down on this. Messages are coming in slow as mole's asses in winter. Ooh. I think it was a different reading altogether. Interesting. Okay. This Four of Pentacles inverted, I believe, came out in another reading. But I think it was a different reading. I was getting the earworm of garbage. The world is not enough. I think, oh, was it the... I think it was Scorpio Capricorn. I feel ready and yet unprepared. Usually in my music deck that I made, the Four of Pentacles with the grabby king here, with the Velcro suit, is the world is not enough, because he wants more stuff to feel like he's got enough. He doesn't need all these pentacles. He really just needs one good one. He needs quality over quantity, and right now he's just like, look at all my stuff. But it's inverted. It's the know when to hold and when to fold card, and here it's a low vibration of figuring out what's for me and what's not for me. And I would say that a lot of the pentacles that I'm getting for these full moon readings have more to do with healing, like in the physical body, than it does with having stuff. That being said, though, this might be limited resources. Notice how I said I haven't heard back from my financial aid. So it's not necessarily I'm not getting what I need. It's I'm letting go of stuff that I don't need. Whereas here, Pisces is like, you know what I don't need is to do this lesson over again. It's like I could get a gold Lamborghini, but I don't need one. Page of Cups. How do I feel about stuff? I haven't really thought about that. I just thought I had to have stuff. I got a gold-plated chalice to eat my Swedish goldfish snacks out of. But what I really just need is maybe like a paper plate, or perhaps a small and crude ceramic bowl. Or even just maybe eat them out of my hoodie. Screw it, I can do laundry later. This is 11. It has to do with universal timing. Notice that I have 10, and this is 11, 10, 10, 11, and then 12, 12. And then I have 4 here and 8 here, doubling, another 4 responding over here. This is a low vibration of a distorted emperor. Inverted, though, it's giving similar energy to here. It's like, I'm just going to be over in my corner with my stuff and I don't need a whole lot. So this is... And notice how fancy he's dressed. He's a fancy lad. You just want something that's functional. We don't want all form and kind of function. We want function over form, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be like gilded with acanthus leaves all over it. It can just be, you know, Corel wear. I was going to say, I feel like this is coming in fast if their messages were very delayed. The exterior message that's available in the meat space is very simple. So let's look at what's going on in the sort of behind the scenes. So like I said, I've got 3 here that I pulled. So let's get a little paragraph. Union of opposites, lovers, which was getting this energy in some of the other readings, and the lovers can be a choice, it can be healing, and it can also be like smoochy, smoochy, kiss, kiss. Baby, let me kiss you, Fern Kinney. I haven't been sleeping well. Hype led to the belief that the miracle had already arrived. Okay. Notice how I said I don't need the gold Lamborghini. And this is kind of echoing that. It's like, I don't need to have a lot of flash. Your gold-plated pillow might look good, but when you try to sleep on solid metal, it's gonna mess up your rest. And notice even this king is wearing like a fur. He's also fancy. It's like I can have my needs met, like getting that financial aid, but I don't need to be ashamed of like having a name brand jacket because I got it to last so that I don't have to waste on getting another one. Sometimes that option isn't available. Like if you can't afford one pair of $60 shoes that's going to last 2 years, you might have to buy 4 pairs of $20 shoes, and in the end you're spending more than you would have. But it's like I'm not buying the expensive, like the $200 shoes just because somebody said they're amazing. Like, what if they just look nice? This isn't the miracle that I needed. Let's see the crossover energy with Pisces. I'm sorry if my voice is going ragged. I've been talking a lot and I'm ill. I know it's kind of hard to listen to. So we have bismuth. Oh. Did I say something about it makes me sick? Because notice how this Buddha statue looks like it's made out of like platinum or something. But it's talking about bismuth. And we know that very well from Pepto-Bismol for your, was it heartburn, constipation, upset stomach, diarrhea, or something like that. They have the gut here. And it says inner peace. And it's in the category of name of the pharaoh in these cards under health. And I've been talking about health, especially in relation to pentacles. And it's like, I'm not going to get myself all upset and stressed out to the point where I'm puking up yellow bile or, running to the toilet, because I don't need to go through this lesson again. I've already exorcised those demons. 83 breaking down to 11. So there's the 11 in the 10, 11, 12 series. 8 is either justice or strength, and 3 is the Empress, which matches the Emperor. 11 breaks down to 2, which is the High Priestess as well, which is fine but not super relevant. Your reputation precedes you. With 11 on it. It's like you're a known rogue. Like, if people cared to notice, they'd realize that you were Indiana Jones, not just some old guy in the corner. Oh, it's, I was listening to Foreigner, The Very Best and Beyond the other day. It's like a greatest hits album. And one of the songs is Dirty White Boy, and it's like, will it ruin your reputation loving me? 'Cause I'm a dirty white boy. Dirty white boy. Down, down. Alright. So let's see what this other one is. Here I come. 294. breaking down to 15, which goes back into 6. So that matches the... What the hell was it? I thought, oh, the union of opposites, the lovers. That matches that. Pay attention to time shifts and synchronicities, perhaps a significant time zone. I think I mentioned time zones in one of these readings. Was it this one? I think it was a different reading. I was talking about timing with the 11, because it can be, some people say 11 is the twin flame number. It also is another vibration of the union of opposites, the 1 and the 1 coming together. 16 was 7, and what's the sleeping? 42 is another 6. 15 and 2 is 17, which breaks back down to 8. Okay. Oh, and then I have the 8 here. Okay. The way that I'm getting this with the Knight inverted, I'm not getting the message. It's like, come again? What? Qua? Que pasa? Sometimes when I'm doing a tarot reading, what's missing from the board is often the most synchronistic information. For example, in this reading, I have 8, I have 10, I had an 11, and I have 12. But I don't have a 9. But what is 9? 9 is the Hermit. So when I look for those synchronicities and something shifting in time, sometimes not receiving a message is the message. I just blew your mind. Alright, Emperor. He's got a couple of things to say. I was wrong to avoid you. 295. Breaking down to 16, which breaks back down to 7. I accept this gift and I am much obliged. 12. Another 12, which breaks down to 3. This makes me think, again, that the gift itself is something that's not coming. Like, I just heard Deus in absentia. Like, my God isn't there. In my insistence to avoid a void by filling it with stuff, by filling the void with adventures of some kind, by filling the void with snacks, I've missed something in the message. And the message is that sometimes the most important message is what's missing. Like, if you built a puzzle, and I'm pretty sure I used a puzzle as an example in another reading in a different way. If you built a puzzle and you had all the pieces except one, you would notice the fuck out of that missing piece and be like, oh my God, where is Frodo's left hand? Like, this looks messed up. And it was the one with the ring in it too. Like, this is bullshit. But if you had all of the pieces, you'd be like, okay, I finished the puzzle, whatever. And like, the lack of absence of something fails to highlight it, to point out why it's important. Another example of this would be, I think there was some cartoon about some, like, pixels used to feel more important back in the 80s because there were fewer pixels per square inch on a screen. And some sad, lonely pixel is like, nobody cares about me anymore, and like, they just leave or like unpixel themselves. And then somebody watching their TV sees like one like burnt out pixel that's got this bright light spot on the program they're watching or their video game, and they're like, no, a dead pixel, this is horrible. And the absence of that pixel in their like 2000 inch TV creates this critical point of what is missing from the pattern. And I swear I mentioned Indiana Jones. I did, yeah. I said the old guy's Indiana Jones, but nobody cares that he's been on all these adventures because he's just, you know, like, oh, this old guy sitting in the corner. But if you remember in the Indiana Jones with the Holy Grail thing, it wasn't the big fancy cup, it was the carpenter's cup that was more plain, that was the important one. So let's get into, now that we've got an idea of what Pisces is doing, if I sentence correctly, we can look at what's underlying Aries situation. We're going to start over here with the Page of Cups. Calcium. Female energy, the Empress, physical world, body. Okay, so I did mention some kind of Empress energy on bismuth, 83. So 3 is the Empress. 20 is calcium. It could break down to 2, which is the High Priestess, or we could be dealing with judgment. But in general, we have the body. I'm trying to heal something in my body or in my physical world, right? I'm not getting enough sleep. I feel like crap. I need some good rest. And notice that calcium is sort of responding to bismuth over here on Pisces side, because if you have an upset stomach, if you're not taking Pepto-Bismol, you can take calcium carbonate, which is Tums, Tum Tums, Tums. Or just eat some of those, was it Necco Hearts or something that taste like chalk? I don't even know if they make those anymore. So we also have selenium, thyroid growth, dealing with health. I think the thyroid can mess up your weight. Like if people are like super chonkin, they're like, well, we better check your thyroid and make sure that it's not causing a hormonal imbalance. But if you have the parathyroid, which is like these 4 little nubs like in your throat that are like nearby, if the parathyroid is messed up, it can screw up the calcium in your bones. And it would appear that selenium is a necessary trace element for health of that area. So we're dealing with the throat chakra as well, as this idea of being able to speak up about something that you think is wrong. 34 breaks down to 7, which is the Chariot, which would be that motion, but also 3 and 4, the Empress and the Emperor together. Aries might do well to check out their thyroid and parathyroid, especially if your whole body hurts, because that could mean that your bones are losing calcium. Not medical advice. All right, so we have 48 cadmium, which breaks down to 12. We've seen those numbers already. Mortar and pestle, paint, pigments, and energy. All right, so we're also dealing with if your bones are falling apart and you're in pain all the time, you're not going to have energy. I saw this info meme that was talking about how for someone who does not live every day in chronic pain, there's also the need for sleep, in order to experience what the same level of difficulty during a day that someone who has chronic pain experiences, you would have to be awake for 3 days and then try to go through life as normal. So if you have to go to the DMV and then grocery shopping, you might be like, oh, I got some sleep, and then I got up and had breakfast and walked the dog, and then I did my errands and made dinner and stuff. Someone who has chronic pain, they can like barely crawl out of bed. They have to have like an adrenal kick to get going, and then the whole day is stress and pain blocking And then by the time they get home, they can't even talk and they need to lie down. And the regular person won't understand that unless they stay up for 3 days and then try to go to the DMV and shopping and cooking. For example. I feel like these pigments here represent different vitamin content. Whereas we have selenium. You'd have like beta carotene and B12 and C and maybe some clamathlete, blue-green algae, and norepinephrine and stuff like that. So Aries actually seems to be under the weather and waiting for their doctor's appointments to be made or for their insurance to go through. I thought I had been diagnosed properly, but I still feel like shit. I was dismissed offhand because they didn't believe someone of my gender or age could have this. They refused to blood test me. This very much has to do with healing here. But I also see it as sort of like opposition from establishment. Aries is like young and decrepit, and Pisces is like old and in decent health, but doesn't need to go running around anymore. In this case, they don't necessarily seem to be working together. They seem to be at opposite ends of the spectrum. But what is being revealed? Oh. For Pisces, what's being revealed is that the missing piece of the puzzle was that Pisces had a reputation for going out and having some kind of experience. It's like someone, and especially with these coming in under the Emperor, it's like, oh, we were avoiding you this whole time, but you had this like amazing gift of information to give us that would have helped us before. Like, for instance, when I just said that the parathyroid being messed up can affect your bone density and make you exhausted. I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't observed it. Secondhand experience. And then I tell you what I've observed, and treating that made a difference for the person that I've observed in a non-medical way. Now you'll know about it, this missing information, and can be like, hey, can we test this? Instead of finding out like 10 years later that it's a problem. So that I can get some rest to be functional and go out to the DMV with these guys here, or whitewater rafting or whatever. You know, so like whatever meds they were giving me just made me sick to my stomach. Even though I was still taking like all the vitamins. Because if you've got this parathyroid thing, you can eat all the calcium you want and your body won't retain it. It's like, oh, we've already got calcium, bye. We're just going to flush it out of the system along with more calcium. That's your bones that you need. And it doesn't have to be exactly that. These are examples. right? My friend had some rare issue and ended up having to have Botox in his throat because he couldn't burp, and some other medical issues. But that's something that's like you wouldn't know about unless you ended up going through like years of medical bullshit and then finally got enough experience to know about some weird, rare stuff like legends of the Holy Grail, or how best to, what is it called when you have to hunt an animal and then you clean the carcass? How best to prep a lizard in this certain part of Australia to eat so that you may survive in the bush. That kind of information. You know, like, don't eat this fish, it has toxic chemicals in it and you'll die if you don't cook it right. So eat something else, even if it's got an exoskeleton. Oh, I just saw another scenario that fits this template where it's like someone is deliberately poisoning someone else and it's not obvious. Like, oh, they're putting eye drops in your water and you don't know why you keep getting sick, and it you just have this like exhaustion, and you're not going to find out until you break off a relationship and you're like, why do I suddenly not feel like I'm being poisoned? It's like, because you're not. But you were like collecting this person as maybe a status symbol. If we're talking about a love relationship where it's like something's telling, like something's missing from this, and that would be the love, maybe. This is kind of obscure because these aren't particularly working together, but I see how they kind of are opposites. We're starting from a place of not enough experience to know what you need and don't need to experience, but you have no way to impart that information to other people because it's like you don't know what needs to be said until people ask you. Like, when the student is ready, the master appears, except in this case the master is already there, but they have no debt to society until the student arrives. You won't get a fortune if you don't put a coin in the machine, basically. Hopefully that makes sense, and I hope that you feel better very soon if you've got the chronic illness. I was gonna wrap this up, but in this case, a life purpose reading or a past life reading might be valuable. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment, check out my playlists tab, and stay groovy. And or if you want to order a personal reading, details are down below in the description box. Stay groovy, and we'll see you later. Bye. Thank you for watching. Stay connected with CATtheMinion energy work. Check out my complete suite of goods and services conveniently from my Linktree. linktr.ee/CATtheMinion. Color your way into some relaxation with my coloring books Energy Forms and Draco Forms on Amazon. Get groovy with fashion and home accessories from my Cafe Press or Redbubble shops. Decorate your environment with original art and divination tools from my Etsy shop.